Hey kids, welcome back to reading. In reading today, we're going to learn all about Martin Luther King Jr. When Martin Luther King Jr. was alive, Americans with black or brown skin didn't have the same rights as people with white skin. They didn't have somebody in power to go to when they were treated unfairly. Martin Luther King Jr. was brave. He stood up for people without rights, and he never gave up, even when people were mean to him. He helped people fight for rights in a peaceful way, with powerful words and actions. He worked hard to make things fair for people of all races. The story that we're reading today is a biography. Remember, a biography is a true story about an important person, either from the past or that's still alive today. Biographies are stories with real people, places, and events, instead of made-up ones. They tell important events in a person's life in the order that they happened. As we're reading today, I want you to pay attention to the characteristics of a biography that are in this story. Let's get reading. Today, people of all races celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day. But when Dr. King was a boy, he couldn't even go to the same school as white children. He couldn't play in the same parks or eat in the same restaurants. He couldn't drink at the same water fountain as white people. Let's stop and think. Why couldn't he play in the same parks or eat in the same restaurants as white people? You're right, he couldn't do those things because of the color of his skin. Black people weren't allowed to do the things that white people were able to in the same places. But his mother always told him, ML, don't you ever forget that you are just as good as anybody. Young Martin believed that. He believed it so much, he grew up to teach that message to the world. Dr. King said, "You are just as good as anybody," and many people believed him. Black people sat quietly at lunch counters just to show that they belonged there. They refused to ride buses that made black people sit in the back. They walked alone into schools to prove that black children had a right to learn besides white children. Why did black people do things like sit at lunch counters and walk alone into schools? You're right, they did those things to show black people belonged and deserved the same rights as white people. And because so many people believed Dr. King, at last they changed this country's laws. Children of all races now learn at the same schools. They play in the same parks. They sit wherever they like on buses. They eat in the same restaurants. They drink at the same water fountains. Because of Martin Luther King Jr., children of all races now walk together as sisters and brothers. Wow, Dr. King was a great American leader. Think about how he made America better. And thanks for reading with me today. Bye, friends.